Our speaker today is J.John. Many of you, of course, will know him. J.John and Killy, his wife, are here today. We are so grateful to them as a family. Their three sons have all been involved to some extent here. They're a great family. J.John is greatly in demand as a speaker all over the country, as you know. One Christmas, he did 32 carol services. He's spoken in 69 countries around the world. His books have sold over 1 million copies. And I would love to recommend this one in particular. It's called Just 10. Sometimes people think, oh, the 10 Commandments, that's really boring. Not with J.John. The 10 Commandments are so exciting. And he explains why. And this book, he's given these talks all over the country. And literally hundreds of thousands of people have been to hear because they are so inspiring. All his books are inspiring. There are lots of them downstairs in the bookshop. Oh, I've left the other ones. Anyway, there are lots of them. And I recommend them all. But more than that, I recommend J.John because he's been such a good friend. He and Killy have been such good friends of Pippa and mine for the last, I don't know how many years. But we love them. They're just amazing, amazing people. And we're thrilled that in his very busy schedule, J.John has found time to come and be with us this morning, or this afternoon. So would you give him a very, very warm welcome?
Thank you, Nikki. Good afternoon. And good afternoon to all those of you watching, listening in Onslow Square. It's great to be here. And over there as well. People often ask me, J.John, what do you do? And that's always very difficult to know what to say. Because if you say that you're a reverend, which I am, or I'm a canon, which I am, it conjures up images in people's minds as to what I might be. So I like to be a little bit creative in telling people what I do. I sat next to this lady on an aeroplane at Heathrow Airport, and I said, hello. And she said, oh, hello. And I said, where are you going? She says, well, I'm going to Singapore. Then she said to me, where are you going? And I said, well, I'm going to Australia. I said, what do you do? So she told me. Then she said, what do you do? And I said, well, I work for a global enterprise. She said, do you? I said, yes, I do. I said, we've got outlets in nearly every country of the world. She said, have you? I said, yes, we have. I said, we've got hospitals and hospices and homeless shelters and orphanages, and we do feeding programs. We've got marriage work, educational work. We do justice work, reconciliation work. I said, basically, we look after people from birth to death, and we deal in the area of behavioral alteration. And she went, wow, like, really loud. People turned around and looked at us. She says, what's it called? I said, it's called the church. Have you heard of it? If you're a follower of Jesus and you're part of the church, then you're part of a global enterprise. But after that initial conversation, we then spoke for several hours about the church and about Christianity. And it was obvious that her understanding of Christianity was a misunderstanding. Now, Nikki has asked me this afternoon to explain to you what Christianity is. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do now. When I conclude, if you would like to begin the journey of following Jesus or reinforce your commitment to following Jesus, I will ask you, both here and over at HTB at Onslow Square, to make your way out of your seat, out of the rows, out of the balconies, and here to come and stand here at the front, and over in Onslow Square to do the same and come and stand there at the front. Now, I'm telling you now, so when I tell you in 30 minutes' time, you're not going to be surprised, okay? That's what I'm going to do. Now, there's a very famous verse in the Bible located in John's Gospel, chapter 3, verse 16. And it says this: "For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, so whoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life." That one statement, that one verse, that one sentence sums up the essence of what Christianity is. It's an invitation. Now, if you're anything like me, I'm sure you appreciate invitations. I mean, even if you can't go, you think, oh, wasn't that nice? It's nice, isn't it? They thought of us. Now, when you get an invitation to a wedding, you get the card, and at the bottom of the card, you find the letters RSVP. What do they stand for? There was this professor from overseas in England for a short time, for a semester, and while he was here, he received a wedding invitation. And at the bottom of the card, the letters RSVP. Now, they didn't have that code back in their country. So the professor was trying to crack the code. And then he says to his wife, yes! His wife said, what? He said, RSVP, remember some wedding present. The professor, he thought it was a demand, but actually it was an offer. Now, you and I, we know what those letters stand for. Respondez s'il vous plaît, which basically means, are you going to come? And people put a date. So if you don't reply by the date, you can't go. Now, we're all being offered today an invitation. A Christian invitation. At the bottom of the card, it's got RSVP, Sunday, October the 5th. Will we be offered it tomorrow? Don't know. You're like, what do you mean you don't know? Well, don't know. Well, why don't you know? We don't know whether we're going to be alive tomorrow. That's why it's very important to reply while you're still alive. Yeah? Now, when you get an invitation, there are 3 things you want to know. 1, who is it from? 2, who is it to? 3, what is it about? Okay, let me answer those 3 questions. Question 1, who is it from? Back to the verse. For God. It starts with God. G-O-D. Now, what does G-O-D mean? It's interesting, isn't it? When the first Russian astronaut returned from space, there was an interview. First question, did you see God? He said, no, I did not. The Soviet Union heralded this as proof that God did not exist. When the first American astronaut returned from space, first interview, 4th question, did you see God? He said, I would have seen God had I stepped out of my spacesuit. Can you see 2 different understandings of the word God? There was a little girl and she said, Mummy, is God in the house? So Mummy thought, is God in the house? Yes, he is, dear. The little girl said, Mummy, if God's in the house, is he in the kitchen? So the mother thought, he's in the house. Is he? Yes, he is in the kitchen. The little girl said, Mummy, if God's in the house and he's in the kitchen, you know the marmalade jar without the top on it, is he in the marmalade jar? What do you think? What do you think? Huh? Yeah, he's in the marmalade jar. So when the kettle's boiling, he's in there having a sauna. It's just good to know what you believe. You see, if you do the Alpha course, you can ask questions like that. You can ask any question. So the mother thought, he's in the house, he's in the kitchen. Yes, he is in the marmalade jar. And the little girl went, I've got him. You see, that's what a lot of people do. a lot of people try and kind of say, this is God. Listen, God is unboxable. You cannot box God in. And you and I cannot fully fathom and understand God. If you and I could fully fathom and understand God, he would be the same as our little minds. Therefore, he wouldn't be worth believing in. It's only as we come humbly to God that we can begin to understand. For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son. The invisible God became visible in Jesus. The intangible God became tangible in Jesus. The unknowable God became knowable in Jesus. Jesus is the exact representation of God. He is the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. He is the creator of the entire universe and the cosmos. The invitation is from him. From him. I bet if you got invited to go and have tea with the Queen, you'd tell everybody. Even if it wasn't appropriate. You would slip it in conversation. Did I tell you I'm going to have tea with the Queen? I just thought I'd mention it. Why? Because you're excited. But one day, every king that has ever reigned, every queen that has ever reigned, every president, prime minister that has ever held an office, they're all going to be on their knees. And none of them on that day will be kings, queens, presidents, or prime ministers. Do you know what they're all going to say? Jesus, you're the only king. You are the only king. The invitation is from Jesus. Who to? For God so loved the world. The world. Every one of us, irrespective of who we are, our background, our age, the color of our skin. Now, not everyone acknowledges the invitation. But that doesn't mean they're not being offered it. I gave a whole series of lectures at Oxford University, and after my final lecture, this student comes up to me, and he said, Mr. John, I've listened to all your lectures this week, and personally, I believe, he said, Christianity is a crutch. And I looked at him and I thought, I hope you break your legs. Random thought. We all have random thoughts. And then I said to him, listen, if you broke both of your legs, would you appreciate the use of a wheelchair to get around? He said, yes, I would. I said, if you broke one leg, would you appreciate the use of crutches to get around? He said, yes, I would. I said, I'm a broken person. So are you. I've never met a person who isn't broken. And I'm so glad I can lean on Jesus while he's putting me back together again. The invitation is from Jesus, and it is to you and to me. What is Christianity about? The Bible has got 800,000 words in it. What's it about? It's about three things. You're going, just three things? Yeah, just three things. That's all, three things. 1, forgiveness from the past. 2, new life here, today. 3, a hope for the future. That's it. Everything else in the Bible is what you call commentary and application on those three principles. Principle 1, forgiveness from the past. Would you agree with the following statement? There are problems in the world today. Do you agree with that? Yeah, we all agree. It's interesting that all the people who know how to solve the world's problems are too busy cutting hair and driving taxi cabs. I said to my hairdresser, it's a shame you're too busy cutting hair. You could be the Prime Minister. It's amazing what they say, in like a 30-minute conversation. You know, we've all got ideas, haven't we, as to how to solve the world's problems. But the big question is this: what is the root cause of everything that's wrong in the world today? You see, there's a lot of people trying to deal with the symptoms. But what's the root cause? A mother said to her husband, "Darling, look after Annie for me, their daughter. I need to press on." So the father said, fine. He thought, what could he do to occupy his daughter? He's flicking through a magazine and he sees a map of the world. He says, "Annie, watch what I'm going to do." He cut the map of the world into small squares and he muddled all the squares on the floor. He said, "Annie, I want you to put the squares back together again to make the map of the world. When you've done that, come and find me." So the father thought, good, that'll keep her busy. A few minutes later, "Daddy, I've done it." He thought she couldn't have done it. Went to have a look. All the squares were put in exactly the right place. He said, "Annie, how did you know where to put all the squares?" "Ah," she said, "when you were cutting the map out, I looked on the other side and I saw a picture of a man and a woman. And I thought if I could put the man and the woman back together again, I could put the world back together again." You see, the heart of the human problem is the problem of the human heart. That's what's at the heart of everything that is wrong in the world today. It's the human heart. It is out of the human heart that come the seeds that pollute our own lives, that pollute our relationships, that pollute our families, that pollute our communities, that pollute our countries, that pollute the continents of the world. It is out of the human heart. Let me illustrate it for you in a slightly different way. Just imagine you pass out of this life now. This is just an analogy. You woke up in a gigantic theatre, sitting there on your own. In front of you is a huge screen. All of a sudden, the doors open, an angel flies in, comes up to you and says, "Welcome to the theatre of judgment. Relax." Watch the screen. Now, there on the screen, you see your life. Everything you ever did here on earth, everything you ever said here on earth, and everything you ever thought. I mean, what film rating would you give your life? Right, but let's put it this way. Would your thought life be suitable for family viewing? At the end of the film, as you're recovering, the angel comes back and says, "Relax. There's going to be a second showing." All the people who were featured in the film of your life are all waiting outside, and we're just going to let them in so they can view your life for a second time. How would you feel if your life were judged on that basis? That is exactly how God judges us. In an instant. We are judged by everything we've said, by everything we've thought, by everything we've done. I don't know about you. Me, I would not want a private viewing, let alone a public viewing of my life. I don't need convincing. And what a lot of people don't understand is that there are consequences. We think it doesn't matter. It does matter. What's on that film disconnects us from God. And it works a bit like an overdraft in a bank account. If you have an overdraft, I have an overdraft, you can't help me, I can't help you. The only one who can help us is someone in credit. For God so loved the world, he gave his only Son. His only Son. who came into the world to do something for us. He came into the world to give his life. To give his life for us. I was doing my shopping at a supermarket and I got to the checkout till and the lady on the checkout till had a cross around her neck. And I said, "Hello, you're a Christian." She said, "What?" I said, "You're a Christian." "What are you talking about?" I said, "You've got a cross around your neck." She said, "Oh, it's nice." I said, "It wasn't nice. It was nasty." She looked at me as though I was an alien that had just landed in Tesco's superstore. And while we're doing the shopping, I said to her, "Listen to me." I looked at her name tag, Tracy. I said, "Tracy, listen to me. If I had an earring here and you said, 'What's your earring there?' I said, 'That's a gas chamber.'" "No, yeah, gas chamber." And you said to me, "Why are you wearing a gas chamber earring?" And I said, "Well, I want to remember how millions of Jewish people died in the Second World War." Then you said to me, "What's your other earring?" I said, "That's an electric chair." "No, yeah, electric chair." "Why?" I said, "Well, I want to remember how murderers in the United States got executed for their crimes." I said, "What would you think of me if I was walking around with an electric chair earring and a gas chamber earring?" She said, "Well, I think you're balmy. You've lost it. You're not, And I said, "Tracy, is that because they're symbols of execution?" She says, "Yes, yes." I said, "Tracy, what are you wearing around your neck?" And there was a moment like that in the whole of Tesco's. It just went quiet. And she's like, "Cool." I said, "You've got to remember this, Tracy. Jesus didn't wear it around his neck. He wore it on his back." Big difference. Jesus came into this world to wear a cross on his back because the cross somehow purchased for us forgiveness. It was as if he was cashing a check signed with his own blood to clear away the overdraft. There was a famous artist who went back to the town where he grew up, and he's walking around the shops and saw an antique shop, and in the window was one of his masterpieces. He couldn't believe it. The frame was broken, the painting was dirty and scratched, but it was his. But he couldn't go in and say, "Give me that painting, it's my painting." If he wanted it back, he had to buy it back before he could restore it, reframe it. That's what Jesus did. He bought us back so that he could restore, reframe, refresh. That's what he did. Jesus offers us forgiveness from the past. When I became a Christian, the light came on. 9th of February, 1975. My mother said to me, "You're brainwashed." I said, "Mum, my brain has been washed." I said, "Mum, if you only knew what was in my brain, you'd be pleased it got washed." Forgiveness from the past. We, every one of us here, all those of you in Austin Slough Square, we are being offered today forgiveness from the past. 2, we're being offered new life today. New life today. The word Christian has got the word Christ in it. If you remove the word Christ from the word Christian, you're left with I-A-N. Ian isn't going to help you. Now, I'm not saying he's not a nice man. I didn't say that. But he's not going to change your life. Look, if you want to be a Christian, you've got to be connected to Christ. Now, think for a moment, think of your life like a car, okay? The car of your life as an analogy, okay? To be a Christian, using this analogy means that Christ is in your car, okay? And some of you here and on Slough Square, you need to do that today. You need to say, hey, I want Christ to be part of my life. Now, many of us, he's already in our lives. He's already in the car. The big question is, where? Do you drive your car to church, unlock the boot or the trunk, get Jesus out for a religious happy hour? End of the service, get back in there. Yeah? No one would know. No one would know. Your family, you're a happy hour Christian. One hour a week. The rest of the time, the family wouldn't know. Your colleagues wouldn't know. Your friends at university wouldn't know. You're going, no, he's not in the boot, J.John, he's in the car. Oh, great. What, back seat? Bit of a passenger? No, in the front. Oh, bit more of a companion, but still a passenger. Now you're thinking, J.John, we know where you're going with this analogy. You don't actually. But you're thinking, he's now going to say, is Jesus in the driving seat? I am. Is Jesus in the driving seat of the car of your life? Every one of you who said yes, one more question. Are you a backseat driver? The car gets to a roundabout. Jesus turns left. Where are you going? I'm going down the road of generosity. I don't want to be generous. You know, a lot of people in Britain, they think they're generous. They squeeze the pound so tightly, they make the Queen cry. They haven't heard the sermon on the amount. The car gets to an intersection. Jesus turns right. Where are you going? I'm going down the road of forgiveness. I want to forgive. Did you ever see the movie My Big Fat Greek Wedding? Well, when that movie came out, I'm Greek. Okay, so friends of mine, they saw the movie, they said, John, is that what Greek culture's like? Is that what it's like? I said, no, it's worse. My mother is a travel agent for guilt trips. If I want to feel guilty, call my mum. But you see, once I've put Jesus in the driving seat, I have a responsibility about my time, about my talents, and about my treasure. I have a responsibility how I deal with people. Now, when you've got Jesus in the driving seat of the car of your life by his Spirit produces love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, and self-control. So how long have you had Jesus in your life? The big question is this: how fruity are you? If you lack love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control, it's a bit like a little red light coming on in your car, telling you there's a problem. And it might be that some of you here today, some of you in Onslow Square, you need today to reposition Jesus. And in a few minutes, you need to get up out of your seat, out of the rows, and you need to come here at the front and in Onslow Square, along with all those people inviting Jesus. But what you're saying is, I need to reposition Jesus. I need to get him out of the boot. I need to get him, I don't want him as a passenger. I want to put him in the driving seat of the car of my life. Forgiveness from the past. New life here today. Thirdly, our hope for the future. Our hope for the future. In a world of hopelessness, we can have hope in Jesus. A lot of people's hope is a bit like a hospital gown. You're usually not as well covered as you think you are. But in Jesus, you can have hope. You can have hope. Jesus said, listen to what Jesus said, men and women are traveling along one of two roads. Men and women are serving one of two masters. Men and women are building their lives on one of two foundations. Men and women are going into one of two doors. Men and women are heading towards one of two destinies: heaven, hell. Jesus is serious. This is not a game. It's not a game. It's not a trivial pursuit. Do you know when Jesus was hanging on the cross, there were soldiers just below him gambling for his robe? At the greatest moment in history, people were playing games. This is not a game. It's about our life. It's about our destiny. There's a graveyard in York. In this graveyard, there's a tombstone. Written on the tombstone are these words: "Remember, friend, when passing by, as you are now, so once was I. As I am now, soon you will be. Prepare for death and follow me." Interesting words. Somebody read those words and didn't agree with them. So they wrote an addition, and it's still there today. "To follow you, I'm not content until I know which way you went." What is Christianity? Christianity is an invitation. Who from? The King of Kings. Who to? You and me. What's it about? Forgiveness from the past, new life here today, and a hope for the future. RSVP. Respondez, s'il vous plaît. What have you done with your invitation? What do you want to do? If you've accepted the invitation, if Jesus is in the driving seat, then you become the invitation. Wherever you go, you are the invitation. You're an ambassador for Jesus. If you've never invited him into your life, look, invite him into your life. And in a few minutes, say, hey, I want him to be part of my life. Hey, if you've got questions, do the Alpha course. Go. Ask your questions. Discuss. Learn more about what Christians believe and why Christians believe it. Some of you here today, you need to reposition Jesus. Some of you in Onslow Square, you need to reposition Jesus. And to be honest, having Jesus in the boot or a passenger, it's almost like not having Jesus at all. Reposition him today. What we're going to do is we are going to sing now. Can I ask the worship groups, please, both here and in Onslow Square to come? We're going to sing Amazing Grace. It was written by John Newton. Listen to what John Newton wrote. "I broke all of God's 10 commandments. I was a liar, a cheat, a thief, an adulterer, and a murderer. But I discovered Jesus. And in discovering Jesus, I discovered this grace, this undeserved love that cleansed, healed, restored.